What's up guys, it's Wade here and welcome back to the channel. The stock market is doing a rotation at the moment, so if you have money invested in a market, you may want to stay to the end of this video to see what Tom Lee is saying is going to do well by the end of the year. Tom Lee has been right so many times, it's really hard not to listen to him, when all he does is help folks make money time and time again. Now let's take a look at what he had to say.
Crypto saw a nice bounce as well, with Bitcoin climbing nearly 6%. Let's bring in Fundstrat Head of Research, Tom Lee. Tom, always good to see you. So we've got to start with the big picture, including politics. Fortunately, former President Trump was not significantly injured in this assassination attempt over the weekend, but just talking about the impact on investments as well of this overall environment. If President Trump were to win, you say it would be positive for Bitcoin and for cyclicals and commercial REITs, but I'm curious, why negative energy and healthcare?
Thank you, John. I think the reason it's negative for energy is somewhat counterintuitive, but President Trump is favorable for drilling, and he'd want to expand where we look for oil, but that would put downside pressure on oil prices. So that's why we think it would actually ultimately be negative for energy stocks. And for healthcare, I think it has a lot to do with, potentially repealing Obamacare, but also just the fact that pharmaceutical companies and their pricing, I think, would come under a lot more scrutiny as well.
Okay. Now, I got to ask about your small cap call. I think you said a few months ago that small caps could rise 50%. We saw at the end of last week some interesting rotation into small caps. How much further in 24 can they run?
I think the rally that started last week for small caps is going to be larger than the October to December rally of last year. That was over 8 weeks, almost a 30% gain for the Russell 2000. This time we have a larger short position by institutions. We have small caps even more oversold, and valuations, whether you look at median PE, which is now at 10 times 2025 earnings, even lower. So we think that this move could be something like 10 weeks and as much as 40%. So I think it is just starting, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that, the June CPI was so astonishingly soft. I think it's giving the green light for small caps to rally finally, because the Fed will ultimately cut, hopefully by September.
And how much do you expect the S&P to potentially rise over that same 10 weeks?
That's a good question. I think July, our base case remains that July should be good for the S&P 500. So, something like 57, maybe even close to 5,800 in July. But I think that August is really going to be one where the rotation becomes more evident, and I think it's going to be a stronger small cap and maybe flat to slightly down for the S&P.
Okay, and so that's what I was getting at is how strong can the small cap, say the Russell 2000 as a proxy, be versus the S&P 500? And you're saying after July, you actually think that there's going to be a significant outperformance of small caps versus that index?
Yes, and that's kind of what happened in that October to December rally. That, as you know, the large caps actually really sputtered in late December and early January because of that rotation into small caps. And I think, again, because the positioning is even more short relative to large caps, that it could be an even more sizable move.
So the money's flowing from large cap companies to small cap companies. So this is a big win for the Russell 2000, which is the small cap index. There's an ETF that tracks the Russell 2000. It's IWM. In case you guys want to buy it, this is not financial advice. This is for education and entertainment purposes. So essentially what's happening here is that risk on is back in business. To break this down even further is that investors are willing to invest in riskier assets because the Federal Reserve is about to lower interest rates. And when the Federal Reserve lower interest rates, small cap companies tend to do better because they can borrow money now at cheaper interest rates to help stimulate their business. Right now, I'm currently dollar cost averaging into the Russell 2000 ETF, so I could benefit from this rotation. Be sure to check the description down below for some free stocks with Moomoo, who is a sponsor of the channel. And like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.